What's your name?
Dorothy Ann Louise Maizano.
Gotcha.
Gabinski Maizano.
What's your age currently?
I'm 89. How many, what did I have?
Brothers and sisters.
One,
What was his name?
Edward.
How old was he when you were born?
He was 8 years older than me.
And were you close when you were younger?
No, because I was the tag-along sister. My mother worked, and I had to follow my brother every place he went.
How was your relationship with your family when you were younger?
Terrific. We always had a house full of company. Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, they all came to my mom's house.
When you say they all came, who are all of them?
Well, my mother was the oldest of 12, and 3 died when they were babies. So they all lived in Shamokin, and my parents came to New York, and they all followed. And when they'd come, they'd stay with my parents first, and then they'd go find jobs, get married. So there was 12 from my mother's side and 10 from my dad's. But mostly my mother's family came to us. It was my mom, Aunt Helen, Aunt Nellie, Aunt May, and Aunt Dorothy, and Aunt Millie that lived in Shamokin. And then I had an Uncle Eddie, Uncle Flory, and an Uncle Joe. And then the other babies died when they were young. One died of diphtheria, and the other one died of pneumonia because there was no insulin. The shots you're getting out for stuff, they didn't have that. They died because when you got diphtheria, there was no cure for it at that time. So, yeah, they all died at home at my grandmother's house.
What was your grandmother's name?
Her name was Catherine Goretzky Tedeskevich. I used to feel sorry for my cousins when they had to spell it. And sometimes when I went to New York, they changed it to Terrace because they didn't want it. Because it was a long name. Yeah. But that's the couple I showed you. That's my Aunt Millie. She was the youngest. My aunt had 7 kids. This is my Aunt Millie's son, Tony. Patricia died of cancer. Bobby died of cancer. And the boy died. And then she had 7. So this one, I don't remember I think it was Rosemary, Annie, Rita, I forget. And then she had a son named Tommy. And I think this is Annie. That's photos of Larry when he was bigger.
That's when he was younger.
Yeah, and that's my grandmother.
That's the grandmother.
He was Joe, and she was Catherine. She was born in America. Grandpa came through Ellis Island, and then he went down to Shamokin. He works in the coal mines, but his brothers went to Connecticut.
What do you remember most about being a kid?
Going to carnivals. My birthday was in June, and my Aunt Anna, that was my father's sister, liked to take me. And we'd ride the whip and the carousel. And it would always rain on my birthday when the carnival would come to town. Yeah.
When was your birthday? Just specific day?
June 12th.
1936. What was your favorite family members when you were younger?
My Aunt May's husband, John. He was a baseball fan. There was no TV, but he listened to the Giant game on one radio and the Dodger game on the other radio. Yeah, and on Sunday, we used to live in an apartment in Brooklyn, and he'd come knock at the door. He'd go, "I'm going to get the Sunday paper. You want to come?" And I'd go with him, and we'd go down to the bakery. It was run by private people. There was no plastic bags like you get now in the store. They were fresh rolls, and we'd pick some of them up, and then we'd go back up to the apartment. He'd make himself coffee, and we'd read Dick Tracy, Popeye, Jughead, all those cartoons that were in the paper. It was fun to sit and read the Sunday cartoons together. And her husband, like I said, he was in the service. So at that time, you didn't get letters from the soldiers. You got photographs, and what they thought should be blocked out was blocked out.
Mm.
So he used to write to me, and he'd say, "Don't tell Aunt May that you're my girlfriend." It was a game we used to play. And I remember when he came home, they didn't tell me he was coming. And I came home from school, and I went to get up the stairs to go to my bedroom. And when I opened the door, he was standing there. And I just jumped with joy, and he gave me the biggest hug. And yeah, he was a good man.
Is there any other stories you want to tell us about childhood before we get into something else?
Well, it all depended where I lived. In the beginning, like I said, my mother and father would come to New York, and they lived in an apartment house where they met Uncle Johnny, and he had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And then from there, we moved to New High Park. My father built a house, and I was 7 years old when I lived there, and that's where we used to go to the carnival. And then we moved back to Brooklyn again, and then we moved to a farm. My father wanted, after 20 years of being in the city, he wanted to go to a farm. That lasted a year. That farm was right near Knoebels.
Was it?
Yeah, Knoebels was over here, and the house that was that way. I remember when they built Knoebels. The first, before it was born, the dentist was my dentist. His name was Knoebel. It was named after the family, yeah. You could say they owned Shamokin. They had a lot of the businesses. When I lived in Brooklyn, I used to go swimming up to I wouldn't go there in the daytime now. And we used to, you know how you go under the water?
Mm-hmm.
The lights would be on in the pool. So we'd go under the water and touch the light and come up. Yeah, I liked swimming up there. It was good.
And then after the farm, where did you go?
We moved into my daddy's mother's house, because she passed away and he was the executor. And we lived there for a while, and then we took a tour. He sold the house, and we took a tour of the United States for 6 weeks. I didn't go to school. My father said you learn more traveling. So that's what we did. My dad went to coal mines when he was 13.
Mm-hmm.
He never finished school. But then when he came to New York, he got a job from a bank as a maintenance worker. So he used to, clean the banks and make sure everything was all right at night. Grandma died in 1996.
What did she end up passing away from?
Well, she was diabetic, and she had a good heart, but she was getting small strokes. She never wanted to go to the hospital, because when you go to the hospital, you're going to die. But one day she came, we were talking, and she said, "I'm not feeling good, and you're tired. I want to go to the hospital." I couldn't take care of her anymore. It was me and Uncle Johnny. And it was hard, because she was a little woman, but she was heavy. Her house was on Heileman Avenue, and you'd walk up, and there was a park there, and I'd take you down to the beach, and then you'd swing on the swings and stuff. When the house got sold, I told my brother that I moved. He gave me a year to let Johnny graduate. And then as soon as I said I had an apartment, I couldn't get back in. But the guys, occasionally I'd say, "I used to live here. All right, go in and grab what you want." So that's why I grabbed the blanket. I grabbed that picture of Jesus that I had, and a couple other things that I wanted. But I have pictures of Grandpa Maizano, your grandpa, and there was a lot of stuff. Aunt Tootsie and Jess took the dresser, and everything had to get thrown out of it.
What did your mother do?
Well, she would, the original Howard Johnsons, she worked for them. She was a cook.
Howard Johnson. I don't know what that
Yeah,
is.
you don't remember, but anyway, and they wanted to send her to California, but she didn't want me to. She didn't want to go because I'd have to change schools again, so she didn't go. But she worked for what they call Sperry's, which was an aircraft carrier place where they made planes during the war, and she was a nurse's aide there. And then she worked for a woman in Huntington. She was a cook. Yeah, my mother made good coleslaw, potato salad, apple pies. Oh, I loved her. But she'd take that apple pie, she'd put the crust in, she put the apples in, and brown sugar and stuff, and then she put a top on it, and then she'd pick it up and cut all the crust. Well, that wasn't necessary. Yeah.
And what did you do for a job? You said you worked at a bank. Did you do anything before
Yeah,
that?
my father told me a bank job would be good because you'd get a pension and a bonus at the end of the year. They don't do that anymore. If the bank had good business, you got a bonus. And then the pay wasn't much, but they had good benefits. So stick with it. So I went to work. I worked after school first for $15 a week. I could get done with high school and go to work, and then come home on the bus.
How many years did you work at the bank?
10.
What did you do with your last bonus before going to get married?
I went to California. I took that tour where I went to the Grand Canyon, and we took a plane. And then from Chicago, we took the train to the Grand Canyon, and we spent the night where I said that place burned this year. And then from there, we went to San Diego, up to Hollywood, San Francisco, up to Seattle, Washington, across Puget Sound. I can't think of the name. It was a Canadian town. They had the Olympics there one year. And then from there, we took a ride on a train through the Canadian Rockies to a town called Banff. It was a beautiful place. You were able to cross the water then. You didn't have to have a passport. North Dakota, South Dakota, back to Chicago. And then we flew home. And I went to the original Disney, not the one down here, the one in California. And it was entirely different. Well, it had Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Goofy. Yeah, I think I was in my 20s.
When did you get married to Grandpa John?
I was 27. I got married in 64. Yeah. And then I moved down here.
How long did you live in Florida with him?
4 years.
And then you went back to New York.
Yeah.
Where did you live in New York?
Like Ronkonkoma. First we moved in with my mom and dad, and that didn't work out too well. So then my cousin had this little house near the lake, and he said, you can stay here until you find a place. And then from there we went to Wisconsin.
When did Grandpa pass away?
I don't know. Aunt Louise said she was a teenager.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I never met him
I don't remember the year.
because I didn't know he was still around with
No,
great grandma in
he
Ronkonkoma.
died, and he left my mother the house in Ronkonkoma.
What did he pass away from?
Cancer,
What kind of cancer? Do you know?
lungs, because he smoked. His fingers were full of nicotine. Plus the fact that he works in the coal mines didn't help.
How was family life with Grandpa before the
Oh,
divorce?
good. He'd get mad at me if I did something wrong, and my mother said she should be spanked. And he'd look at me and he'd say, I can't spank her. She has beautiful blue eyes. I'm not going to spank her. So what he used to do, he'd come home and I had to tell him what I did. And then he'd say, well, what should we do about it? That was the hard part. I don't know. Well, there's an Alan Ladd movie in town this week. You're not going to see it. And that's how, and then I had to stay in my room for a week.
Grandpa John did the Navy, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, long before I knew him. He never saw the war, but he was on a ship. Didn't go out. He wasn't shipped out. And then his mother had leukemia, so they sent him home early.
When did you and Grandpa John divorce?
1989. It was a rough marriage. He'd get mad and I'd get mad. He'd hit me on the back and I'd throw pots, I'd throw dishes. It wasn't any good anymore. After my father died and his father died, he didn't care anymore.
When did he meet Joyce?
I think about 2 years later.
Yeah, you seemed okay with each other.
I liked Joyce was married before. Her husband is buried in Calverton and she's with him. And she told my husband, which I got a big kick out of, if you don't behave, out.
What was your favorite story about Mom when you were younger?
She used to climb trees. Her and Joanne drove me crazy. But when she met your dad, I didn't like it. But there again, I said one day, I asked her, I said, are you pregnant? No. Are you sure? No. I mean, yes. And then all of a sudden, I got to go to the emergency room. She wasn't feeling good. They did a sonogram, and that thing was so loud, you couldn't help but hear there was a baby in it. And I had to tell your father. Oh. She only weighed 4 pounds. You were 5 something. And I was on a Port Jeff ferry, and I looked up in the sky the day you were born, and I said, the baby's coming. And Uncle Johnny said, how? I said, just look at the clouds. There's a baby up there. And when we got off the ferry, you were born.
What stories do you have of Uncle John?
Well, like I said, the day he got his driver's license, I almost fainted. I never thought he'd do it.
And you also brought up the fact that he had a cast on his arm that he pulled off.
Yeah. He walked out of it. And teacher called me. He said, he took it off. The doctor said the swelling went down, so he pulled it out. Johnny was thrilled when Hillary got him the Lenny. The first time he had lymph node and bone marrow. And the second time, he was cancer-free for almost 6 years. And that arm started to act up. They couldn't figure out what kind of cancer it was. And I used to get so frustrated because we kept waiting for results and waiting for results. And we weren't getting anywhere. But he liked to go to the shrine, Our Lady of the Island. We went there a lot, especially now when it's cooler. We'd sit under the trees, and you could see Fire Island from up there. But he liked Applebee's, and we used to go to the steam room in the Port Jeff Village, and then we'd go in the store and we'd buy chocolate-covered pretzels and pralines with the little white dots on them.
Is there anything you remember most about Aunt Louise?
Well, I thought it was kind of odd that Aunt Louise, Johnny died on a Saturday, and she retired on Monday. And we didn't always get along too good. And I go, you're going to take care of me now? I thought it was funny. She went to college in Syracuse. We took her up, and she was up there. And then she came back and she lived with us for a little while. And then she met Jimmy. My mother was alone and she was falling all the time. So she went and stayed with her. And then when she met Jimmy, she left and she went with him. They never got married. They lived together for 7 years. And Barbara was born. I met Stephen when I was in Centereach, when they were living in that apartment that had stairs and a kitchen and dining room. And then they moved across the street to the other. That's where I stayed with them after I left Inglewood. Ivy Meadow Lane. Yeah.
What would you like to say to Barbara?
Well, I see more of Barbara now than I did when she was younger because I didn't see her for 7 years.
Is there any stories about me, Christina, or Caitlin you want to talk about?
Well, we used to go to Knoebels together. I didn't go on the sluice, but I went in the haunted house. I used to take you on the Port Jeff Ferry. I love that ride back and forth.
Is there any specific things you'd like to talk about Christina for?
When she made her first Holy Communion, we went to that hall, and I still had the dress that I bought for that party.
Caitlin, do you have a really good memory of her?
The day she was born, and then she used to come over to the house in Centeridge, and we'd sit outside and they'd make pancakes.
If you had to say there was one favorite memory for me, what would it be?
The day you were born, and then when you broke your pinky on the washing machine, and you made your confirmation on crutches, and you come down to Knoebels, and my cousins were all feeling so sorry for you.
I know you haven't known, Hillary or Gabriel long, but would you like to say anything to them?
I love him. Yeah. I think he's funny. He talked more this morning than he has the whole time he's been here.
Not to bag on Mom and my dad, but how would you say I am as a father to Gabriel?
Good, you're a good father.
Thank you.
Only I wish you wouldn't do this to his
You don't like that? You don't like that?
But I think, yeah, you're doing a good job. All right. You take care of yourself.
I will, Grandma.